Careerbest scores of 142 by Nick Selman and 88 by Andrew Salter, who shared a second wicket stand of 185 and 51.1 overs, took Glamorgan to 35-33. When bad light ended play shortly after tea on the final day of their Specsavers County Championship match against Gloucestershire, as the game at the SSE Swallock ended in a draw. Evening update play resumed at 3:20 p.m. and 4 further overs were bowled as Glamorgan reached 35-33 after 80 overs. Gloucestershire then opted to take the new ball, but with the light having deteriorated, the umpires took the players off the field. With conditions not having improved, the game was called off at 3:55 p.m. Afternoon reports Salter and Selman had batted throughout the morning session as they took Glamorgan from their overnight 631 to 1541 at the interval. Their stand reached the 150 mark courtesy of 4 overthrows for Salter and Jack Taylor's second over, before Selman clipped Josh Shaw to mid-wicket as well as a coarse skating off-drive to the ropes at the river end. Selman then straight drove Shaw for another 4 before Salter straight drove Jack Taylor for 6 to bring up the 200. But 3 balls later he departed as George Hankins pouched the ball at slip as Salter departed for a Careerbest 88. Kieran Carlson joined Selman, who covered drove Benny Howell for 4, before completing his 4th century of the summer by reverse sweeping his 166th delivery for 3. Shortly afterwards Carlson nurdled Howell for 4, before scoring his 200th run of the game by clipping the all-rounder to mid-wicket. He celebrated by lofting Taylor straight for 6 before Selman edged an off-drive against the spinner to third man as drops of light rain started to fall. Carlson added to his boundary tally by pulling the occasional spin of Chris Dent to the mid-wicket ropes, followed by a lofted straight drive for 6. Phil Mustard also had a trundle and was twice driven to wide mid-on for 4 by Carlson, who then covered drove Dent and Mustard before completing his 50 from 38 balls by leg-lancing the visiting captain. Selman on drove Dent to reach a Careerbest 123, but later in the over the bowler trapped Carlson LBW for 53. Chris Cook brought up the 300 by twice on-driving Mustard, before biffing a full toss from Dent over Longan, and then cover-driving for 4 the occasional spinner. Cook also cover-drove both bowlers for 4, plus a lofted off-drive for 6 against Dent, followed by a huge sweep for 6 against Mustard as the conditions became darker, with the umpires taking the players off the field shortly before 3 p.m. Morning Report 2017 will be the longest first-class season on record, with Glamorgan having commenced their activities on March 28, before finishing next week on September 28 against Kent and Canterbury. After 6 months of on-field activity, it was no surprise that the talk in the pavilion last night, after Gloucestershire had declared in arrears as soon as bonus points were over, was as much about injuries and other ailments as to what might unfold on the final day of the contest. Gloucestershire have been a bowler light since the opening day, when Liam Norwell limped off with a thigh strain, whilst during the past 2 days, Colin Ingram picked up a side strain, whilst Aaron Donald suffered a back spasm whilst fielding yesterday, so it was Andrew Salter who joined Nick Selman for the final 40 minutes last night as Gloucestershire looked to make further inroads. Play began on time with Glamorgan on 631 and a leg of 106 runs, with Selman clipping the first ball from Taylor to mid-wicket. Salter also drilled the left-armer through mid-off and backward point for a pair of firmly struck 4s. Selman also threaded an on-drive to the mid-wicket ropes against Payne, with Salter deftly uppercutting a short ball from Taylor over the slip cordon for 4. Selman brought up the 100 by cover-driving Josh Shaw for 4 before Salter reached his second 50 of the game in the grand manner by straight-driving Kieran Barnett for 6. 2 overs later, Selman followed suit by driving a ball from the Kiwi, the 85th he had faced, to mid-on for a single before crisply on-driving Shaw for another boundary. Salter off-drove and cover-drove Barnett for a pair of 4s as cloud started to build up to the west of the stadium, with Salter also sweeping Jack Taylor for 4 when he entered the attack shortly before lunch.